One, first and foremost, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Bakwakadash. Double honors for the other great millstone. And peace and salutations to the brothers that are doing this work in true sincerity. And we're going to jump right into the lesson. This is basically like a back to the basics type lesson. And this is going into Esau and his blessing. And we'll start at Genesis 27 and verse 38. He says, and Esau said unto his father, because this is after Isaac, already, which was Yahweh Shai, in the reincarnation, if you can receive it, gave the blessing to Jacob. And we're going to go ahead and read Jacob's blessing. This is Jacob's blessing. This is Genesis 27:26. It says, and his father Isaac said unto him, and Jacob is basically, he is the forefather. He is the patriarch. He is the, out of him came the 12 tribes. Because Jacob's name was later changed to Israel, or Prince of the Power. It says, and his father Isaac said unto him, come near and kiss me, my son. Now this was all under the disguise where Isaac thought that he was Esau. So he received the greater blessing, or the blessing of the firstborn. And this was all done by the will of the Most High, through the Spirit. This is all, the Lord does things with controversy. Everything's done with controversy. Everything's done with a twist. Because as the Lord, as brothers say, the Most High is the ultimate Jake. He's the ultimate supplanter. And it was all meant to happen as well, man. This is all how the Lord intended things to be. And then he does things with controversy. You can find that throughout all the scriptures. And he said, I'll just continue on. His father Isaac said unto him, come near and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, because he disguised himself as his mother disguised him as Esau, and blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of the field, which the Lord has blessed. Therefore Yahweh give thee dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and the plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, let thy brother's son bow down to thee. And cursed be everyone that curses thee, and blessed be he that blesses thee. Now, this is the reason for all things in human history. This birthright, this first son blessing, is what the Edomites, the wicked of the world, Esau, Edom, they are wickedly and deceitfully trying to gain back or either disrupt that birthright, because they have the notion that it rightfully belongs to them. And they're going against the Most High to try to gain that birthright back. That's why you see Esau, or the Edomites, or the powers that be, the elites, if you want to call them that, doing the things they do in the world. The world system, the whole, the purposed, tactical, well thought out, well planned out, attempted annihilation of the Israelites, which are the so-called Black, Latinos, and Native Americans. There's a reason why the so-called white man, when we say so-called white man, we're not speaking specifically of skin color. we're speaking about the descendants of the Edomites, which the majority are what you would call so-called white people. And we always have to clarify this: just because an individual looks like a so-called white person doesn't mean that he's a blood descendant from Esau. You know, there's a doctrine in the scripture called the scattering of Israel, where we were scattered among all the nations of the earth, and we're going to look like all these other nations. And when you understand that, then a lot of scriptures make a lot of sense, especially when you're talking about Gentiles and mixed multitude, and the Lord, saving who He saves. But that's another lesson for another time. So this birthright of ultimate and everlasting, uh, basically rulership, was given to Jacob, and it was all through the Spirit. It was all intended like that to be. But the Lord does everything with controversy. To let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be one that curseth thee, and blessed he that blesses thee. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone up from the presence of Isaac, his father Esau came in from his hunting. Now, previous to all this, Esau sold his birthright. Scripture says he despised his birthright, so he wasn't really, he didn't care about it. He was a carnal man. Scripture says a man of the field, or a worldly man, or a carnal man. And Jacob's dwelling tents, basically, he was righteous and pure. He was a plain man, the scripture says. Let's go ahead and get that. Let me see here. Salakia. This is Genesis 25 and 27, describing the characteristics or the natures of both Esau and Jacob. Now it says, "And boys grew up, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field. He was prone to hunting, cunning. Let's get that footnote. Skillful hunter, a man of the field, or a man of the world. And Jacob was a plain. Let's get that footnote. Complete man, dwelling in tents. So he was a. You look at that scripture or that definition. It says perfect, complete, perfect. One who lacks nothing in physical strength, beauty, etc. Sound, wholesome, and only requires sort of person completely morally innocent, having integrity. One who's morally and ethically pure. So he was the opposite of Esau, which was if you read the scripture, he was a liar. He despised his birthright. Then he tried to get back his birthright after he sold it. So it was a false deal to begin with. And Esau has a history of doing that, of making false contracts and agreements, or not honoring his contracts and agreements. Just look at all the broken treaties that he made with the Native Americans, and the land treaties that he made with so-called Mexicans and the Native Americans. So that's his nature. The scriptures call him a deceiver. And a Native American call him a serpent-snaked, or serpent-tongued, or fork-tongued individual. And he was a serpent. So that's his nature, to deceive and to lie. But that's the way the Lord does things. Now, if you go back to the story of Abraham, there was a Ishmael and Isaac. Ishmael was technically the firstborn son of Abraham, but the Lord already shows Isaac through which his seed will be blessed. That was he was going to inherit. He was going to be the inherit the covenant, or inherit the blessing. And basically, the Lord did the same thing with Jacob and Esau. So the Lord does the way He does things. He does things with drama, with controversy, because like we always say, this is the Lord's movie. So going back, we explained the two different characteristics or spirits and motives of Jacob and Esau, and how they were, and what the Most High did. So let's go back 27. And it says, so we'll just jump through it real quick. And this is after Esau tried to get his first right blessing, his firstborn blessing, after he sold it. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great, exceeding bitter cry, and said to him, Father, bless me, even me also. So he still wanted a blessing. After he despised his birthright, he still wanted a blessing. And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety and has taken away thy blessing. That was all through the will of the Most High. He said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? Let's get that for the supplanter. For he has supplanted me these 2 times. Let's get that word supplanted. Is there a definition for that? Let's see here. He holder, supplanter. Son of Isaac. It doesn't really give a definition, Salakia, for that. Where was I? Salakia. This is Genesis 27:36, and he said, is not he rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright. Behold, now he has taken away my blessing. He said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered, said unto Esau, Behold, I made him Lord, and all thy brethren have given to him for servants. His corn and wine have sustained him. What shall I do now unto thee, my son? Esau said unto his father, Hast thou one blessing? My father blessed me, even me also. O my father, Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered, saying, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and do heaven from above. And that's basically, Esau, that's why he's in positions of power upon the earth. That's why, for the majority, the elites of them, the higher echelons of them, the higher classes of them, they live very good. And by thy sword shalt thou live. And that's that they gotten all these resources and riches and things through violence, through war. Because he was a cunning hunter. He already had a warlike spirit on him, man. And he continues that warlike spirit to this day. And by the sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. Shall come to pass, thou shalt dominion, thou shalt break his yoke from off his neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. Esau said in heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand, and then will I slay my brother Jacob. Now that hatred continues on to this day. That hatred continues on. The scripture talks about perpetual hatred. Let's go ahead and get that. So I'll put that there. See, it's in the find it real quick. Salak. This is Ezekiel 35 and 5. It says, because thou, well, we'll start at verse 3 because we got to break down this scripture in context. And say unto it, first, moreover the word Lord came and saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it. Now this right here, Seir, it represents Esau, Edom. To the land of Edom, mountain range of Edom. So symbolically, It's speaking of Idumea. See, mountain of Idumea. It's speaking of a people, Mount Seir. And mountains already are in the scriptures are acquainted with governments and powers. So when it says set thy face against Mount Seir or against the powers of the Edomites and prophesy against it. And that's what brothers do when they go out in the highways and hedges and make these videos. And say unto it, thus says the Most High Power, behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out my hand against thee, and I'll make thee most desolate. Now, basically, waste, devastation, because the Lord is going to destroy the nation of Esau, Edom, after he serves a 1,000 years slavery, under the Israelites in the kingdom. Now will lay the cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know I am the Lord, because he is wicked. His cities need to be laid waste for his wickedness. Sodom and Gomorrah. They're symbolic of America today. America is the new Sodom and Gomorrah. Now you look up that word Sodom and Gomorrah. Let me go ahead and get that. Let's see here. I was reading this the other day. Now you look at these words, Sodom and Gomorrah. Now look at this word here, Sodom. It means burning. This here Gomorrah means submersion. So Sodom and Gomorrah meaning submerged in burning or submerged in fire. I thought that very interesting because America, which is the modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, is going to be submerged in burning or submerged in fire. So, going back to Ezekiel, it goes back to making the places desolate. Therefore prophesy, say, thus says the Most High Power, because they have made you desolate, swallowed you up on every side, you may be possession upon the residue. What was that? That didn't know. That's 35. Yeah, Salak. Yeah. Say unto it, thus says the Lord, my whole Mount Seir, against you, I'll stretch out my hand against you, I'll make thee most desolate. A desolation and a waste. And that's basically the Sodom and Gomorrah like judgment that America is going to receive. Which is, like as you read the definitions, submerged in burning. And I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Most High Power. This is the hatred that was spoken about in Genesis that we just read. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword. The time of the calamity and the time of their iniquity had an end. So basically they were set up to punish Israel, because the scriptures talk about in Psalms, I got the footnote here, Psalms 17:13, arise, O ye houses, pointing, come down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. But the scripture said they went further with that. They forwarded the affliction. Put that over there. Zechariah 1:15, it says, thine very soul is pleased with the heathen that are Israel, the Belials is pleased. They helped forward the affliction. They took that to an entirely different level. That's why in the book of Revelation, it is said that we will give unto her double. Let's go ahead and get that. So because they did that, we're going to be allowed to do this. Revelation 18 and 6. I'll start at verse 5. For her sins are reach unto heaven. That's basically the wickedness of America. God has remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you double. Repay. Repay unto double unto her. Double according to her works, and the cup which she has filled to her double. And the cups are symbolic of judgment. How much has she glorified herself and lived luxuriously, the fatness of the earth, right? So much torment and sorrow give her, for she says her heart is to the queen, I am a widow and shall see no more sorrow. Therefore shall a plagues come in one day, modern day submersion, burning, modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. Death, mourning, and famine should be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord Yahweh who judges her. So this is all set up through the Spirit, man. This is all the plan of the Lord. This is all the Lord's movie. And Genesis 27:40 says, by the sword thou shalt live. So you go back to Revelation, you go to Revelation 3 and 10. What happens to those who live by the sword? Let's go ahead and get it. Revelation 3 and 10 is because thou hast kept one of my patience. That ain't it, Salakia. Must be killed by the sword. That's what I was looking for. That ain't it. Hold up. This is what I was looking for. Revelation 13 and 10. It says 13 and 10, not 3 and 10. So he that leads to captivity shall go into captivity. He that kills the sword must be killed the sword, the face, and the patience of the saints. Reward unto a double, right? So this is ultimately to the Most High's predestination, through His will. This is ultimately the end game of the Edomites, which are the descendants of Esau that we read about in Genesis. This is all done through the Most High's will. This is all done through prophecy. This was prophecies about. This is one of the major prophecies of the scriptures. And this is the main thing that so-called Christianity has a big fear of, because they know it's true. Because it plainly and clearly says it right there. That's why the Edomites don't want to be the Edomites. They want to be Jacob. They even call themselves Jacob. There's a thing called British Israelism or something like that, where they consider themselves the Israelites. But basically all they did was stole the identity of the original Israelites. There's a lot of studies and things and videos that brothers went into that you can look for further study. And there's a lot of books written too. But these are just basic scriptures that describe the Edomites and Jacob and the Edomites what their agenda is, and ultimately what the Lord's agenda is. So with that being said, real quick lesson to the Spirit. Most I will and hope is edifying. With that I want to give all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Kahalal Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Brothers keep on pushing. Shalom.